I have a newsletter, in case you didn't know, where I send out a weekly communication tip right into your inbox totally for free. And in response, every once in a while, in fact, daily, I will get questions from people. I've pulled some of these that I wanted to talk with you about. They're awesome people that have awesome questions. I want to get right to them. This first one is Mac from Michigan. Here's Mac's question. My spouse carries a lot of stress from work. When he's very stressed out, me asking a question can trigger a reactionary response. All I can say is, I'm just asking a question, and then I shut down. How can I respond better? Mac, I understand, because as soon as I saw your email, this hits home. This hits home for me. So I am a practicing attorney, and then I have this communication advice that I love to share, and that's a passion. And then my wife is also a practicing attorney. She does educational law, totally different world than me. But when we get home, yes, you're like any other husband and wife. There are questions that she gives me as soon as I come in the door, or there's times when I'm asking her questions. So I'm about to wade into some topics, y'all, that you may not agree with. You might go, that's not for me. That's fine. What I'm about to tell you is what works for me. This is not a replacement for couples therapy. It's not a replacement for any kind of therapy. Let's be clear about that. So Mac, this is let me give you first a perspective of what could be happening to your husband. And I'm just saying this from my point of view. Whenever I come in the door, I have finished my day. I'm driving and I get home, finishing a whole lot of high-level tasks that big decisions for my clients, big decisions for me, big things that I took a lot of processing, a lot of mental energy. Maybe I switched between doing a podcast, dealing with some issue at the office, in my law firm, and even switching between tasks. It just drains my battery really quickly. And when I get home and I walk in the door, and if the first thing is questions, like, hey, did you remember to call the plumber? Hey, what do you want to do for dinner? What do you want the plan to be for next Saturday? It feels like I am back into decision mode. Let me tell you why. As a husband, this is not Jefferson Communicator Guy. This is Jefferson husband. I feel like I am going to fail my family in that situation because I'm mentally not there. The questions, even though I know, Mac, you ask questions that are totally reasonable. They're normal questions that deserve an answer, that are necessary, or they're just out of curiosity. Sometimes the questions feel like demands in that moment. I'm already overstimulated. As soon as I walk in, the kids immediately want to wrestle. They want to play. I have to be in dad mode. And I'm having a struggle to get out of that mode for a second. And the questions feel like demands. They feel like a pop quiz. And if the answer is, I don't know, I forgot to call this guy. That feels like an exam. I just failed it. I'm getting judgment now that I'm a failure, that I missed it. I should have called them. I meant to call. Didn't happen. No, she's not putting that on me. I'm putting that on me. Maybe it's another question about what we want to do next weekend. Now it feels like an ambush of like, I don't know the right answer. And so anytime it's did you or what do you want, and I'm having to say, I don't know, that feels like I am not meeting this invisible threshold. Again, that's not there. It's just all on me. Now, some of you might be listening and go, Jefferson, just get over it. They're just easy questions. Can you just be a grown adult? Yeah, I understand that. I get it. I'm being honest with you. And there are times that getting a lot of questions right at home when I've done big level things, and as soon as I get home and my brain tells me these are lower level things, and not in terms of, I don't mean in terms of not a priority. That's not what I mean. I mean, some things are not needing to be decided in this moment. And so I just want to push them off because I'm still overstimulated. I haven't come out of work mode. I'm trying to get into dad, husband mode, family mode, and that's tough. I don't mean this as just a husband. My wife is a working wife full-time attorney, she experiences a lot of the same things. If she comes home and I happen to be home first and I'm peppering her, it's the same exact thing where we just go, can we just not? Can we just please? It's very overwhelming in that moment. I'm telling you this, Mac, as hopefully a little bit of insight. Maybe some of you who are married or have significant others might be nodding your head a little bit and going, yeah, I understand that. The last thing I want to do when I get home is feel like I have to answer 100 questions, when this should be the place where my nervous system gets to calm down. This is the place where I don't have to make a decision. Can I just please just let me get out of this mode first? So I don't mean to say that you should never ask questions. That's not it, Meg. Timing is very important here. So I'm giving you a little bit of insight to what might be happening or being experienced from your spouse. Now, how do you fix this? Right? How do we flip that? How do you ask the questions? Again, this is what we do in my house. Does not mean it's what you should do in your house. This is what works. We have a 3-question rule. That means after 3 questions, we're stopping. It can wait. So that means we prioritize the questions. Makes us think about the rank of questions as soon as we walk in the door. So if it's not something that's very important, it's something that's going to be pushed off, meaning we're not going to ask more than 3 questions. And if I know in my world, if I get more than 3 questions, I am ready to, I feel like all of a sudden I'm being avalanched. So that's how it happens. I'll tell you, it helps also to have a routine. For me, if I go home, walk in the door, and I change clothes, I hug on my babies, and I get out of my work clothes. It doesn't even have to be work clothes. Just get into a different outfit. It helps my mind get more into, okay, I'm home. This is me. I'm not having my phone's down. I'm not looking at social media. I'm not thinking about some kind of post. Any of that. It helps me get out of that mindset. There's another thing that helps, and it is we are very communicative about the time. So she's good at saying, hey, not now. This is what she'll say. She'll say, not now, but later, can we start thinking about what we want the plan to be for this Saturday? Or if you want your family to come over, or if we want to go X, Y, and Z. And that helps me and her to know that we're not having this conversation now. She's not trying to force this conversation on me now. I'm sure just like you, Meg, you're not trying to force that conversation now. You're just being curious. You want to ask questions. It's letting us know that this is going to be a topic, but we don't have to talk about it now. Also on my end, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I will say, is this something we have to talk about this moment? Or is this something we could talk about later? Is this something that needs to be decided right now? 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. So just having that communication is crucial for us and how we're doing, because we have 2 kids. They're 7 and 5. So most of the time we can't even have adult conversation, real conversation, until the kids are in bed, which means we're exhausted. The best conversations we have is usually if we can try and find some time mid-morning to have a phone call or lunch, or maybe we have a babysitter and we can actually have full-length conversations without somebody waking up. Somebody needs this with kids. So I know it's a stage and we're enjoying it all, but that's just part of it. So for you, also, for you not to shut down, what's going to help you is having this conversation with your spouse, saying, I'm noticing, or it seems that when you get home and I'm asking questions, you don't like that. What would you prefer that I do? What would be more helpful? Because again, the questions you're asking, they're not like they're dumb questions. They're questions that need to happen. They're questions of curiosity. They're questions of caring. They're questions of this needs to happen for this reason. They might be necessary. And if you have this communication, this conversation with them of what's going to be helpful, when can I bring this up? Because there's certain things you can't just continue to push off. You can't continue to push off. That would be my recommendation. That's at least what we do in my household. We have a 3-question rule until later. And we're very quick to say, is this something we need to talk about now? And already knowing if each one of us have had a very busy day, the issues that are going to take priority, because sometimes we can't even get into a conversation without somebody needing, a cheese stick or asking for something to drink. So that's just that's part of it. But give you some insight there. It's for me, any additional questions when I come in the door, and I know she and I have had this conversation, they feel like additional demands, like a pop quiz. And if I don't have the answer, I start to feel like a failure, and then I get more overstimulated, and it just gets worse. So that would be my recommendation for you, Mac. That was a great question. Question number 2. Hey, Jefferson, I've heard you talk about how your content on improving listening skills is your least popular. I'm actually very interested in that topic. What are some ways to be a better listener? David, you're exactly right. Anytime I've made a video or put any kind of content out on how to be a better listener, you know how many people like it? Hardly anybody. It's always my least viewed video because nobody wants to be a better listener. We want them to be a better listener. We want you to be a better listener, but we never want to be that person. Isn't it funny how that happens? My most viewed content is always how to handle the toxic person, the mean person, what you can do to hold your ground with him. It's never how to be a better listener or be more empathetic or be more understanding. That's the way the world works. David, how to be a better listener. This is my overview for this. There's something what they call active listening, which I think is kind of a weird name for it. But they term active listening when somebody goes, yeah, oh, right, and they continually start to almost talk in nonverbal whenever they're listening to you. That I find, me personally, I find annoying. It can go too far. It can definitely go too far where you feel like this isn't really sincere. And now I've been on plenty of podcasts and the other person's like, right, oh, that's so true. That I find to be completely genuine. That's completely genuine. It's when you can go too far with it. So there's that point of active listening, which is really just a way of engaging you, continuing to give you something to do while you're listening, while you're absorbing the information. So that's something I don't find unhelpful, but I want you to know that is out there. Here's what I would recommend to be a better listener. One is mirroring. It's very easy. You take the last little bit of somebody's sentence and then you ask it back to them. So let's say I'm telling you this phrase. Yesterday, I really just didn't feel like somebody was listening to me. It was just a really hard day. You would reply, hard day? Or you had a hard day? Or it sounds like you had a hard day. You go, yeah, no, I did. I had a really hard day. And then we'll keep talking. You grab the last little 2 to 3 words of somebody's sentence, you just repeat it back to them. Now, you don't want to continue to do that because then it'll be almost robotic, like what's wrong with you? You're not engaging in a conversation with me. But it's very helpful in getting you to listen. Second thing I like to do with listening is getting very disciplined on the practice of refusing to allow myself to think of a response while they're talking. That's the hardest thing to do, but once you master it, it is actually very peaceful. Let me explain. If you're saying something to me, David, and the whole time I'm just thinking of my response, I cannot do 2 things at once. I will shut you out. I'll just shut you out. You know how that feels when you hear somebody talking and you it's like listening to them in the water or having earmuffs on, where you can hear it and they're just like this and they're talking, but you're more concerned with what you're about to say and you miss out on what they're saying. Except my wife says she can do both. She says she can multitask, and that's true. I don't have that ability. So it's a practice of totally emptying your mind and just going, nope. You have to almost deny yourself thinking of a response until they are done talking. Once they are done, using your breath, taking a time to think, and then give your response. Sounds easy, whole lot harder in practice. I know it sounds easy. Using your breath, even if you say, now I'm listening, or I'm thinking, and then you give your response, you will be a better listener for that. Number 3, what I also like to do, sometimes depending on the situation, is I will almost challenge myself as if I am going to have to take an exam over everything that was just said in this conversation. Now, I don't do that in a negative way. I don't do that in some kind of punishing way. It just makes me tune in on making sure I'm really committed to knowing and remembering what is being said. Over the weekend, when I was in Denver, I did a speaking deal in Denver. It was a wonderful time. We were randomly talking about, a group of us were talking about how to better remember people's names. And one of the tips that I gave was I will often, not only do you try and use their name often in conversation once I meet them, it is I pretend as if at the end of it I'm going to take a test, an exam of remembering everybody's name. And all it does is make me very more aware of paying attention to people's names instead of trying to be passive about it. It's that same concept. Instead of just passively listening, I'm trying to be the student. I'm trying to hang on every single word. That means I'm asking questions. I'm not trying to push statements. I'm asking questions about how did that feel? Well, when you said this, what did you mean by this? And I'm using the exact words that they use because it helps train you on being a better listener. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a new attorney, a very brand new, just got licensed attorney, asking questions of a witness, and all they're doing is reading their next question. They're not even listening to the gold that witness is giving them. The attorneys you're scared of are the ones that have their questions and just put them off to the side, and they're in right here talking to your witness. That's when you know they're not even paying a close attention to their questions. They know their questions. They know where they want to go. They're all in on listening. That makes you a lot more skilled attorney and just a more skilled communicator. So that would be my advice there, David from Florida. Thank you very much for that question. That was awesome.
So my book has been out for a little over a week now, and it's been fantastic, amazing. The book tour is going wonderful. And as any new debut author, I, for good or for bad, have been looking at reviews online because you want to know, are people going to like the book? That's the whole, you get very nervous. Are you going to deliver on the message? And the reviews have been so kind and wonderful. And there was one that hit me yesterday that I randomly saw that I wanted to share with you.